The scene: my son Tyler's 10th birthday party in our backyard. About 30 guests, kids from school, neighbors, family. Tyler stands before his dream cake, a custom-made 3-tier masterpiece decorated like a basketball court, his passion. 10 candles burning bright, everyone singing. Tyler leans in to make his wish. Suddenly, my sister Diana lunges forward and slams Tyler's face down into the cake with full force. Screaming erupts. When Tyler lifts his head cake everywhere, I see the horror-angry red burn marks on his cheek and forehead from the lit candles. I rushed to Tyler, my hands shaking as I pulled him close. He was sobbing, his whole body trembling against mine. Frosting covered his face, but underneath I could see the skin already beginning to blister. The burns were real. They were serious. Diana stood there laughing. Actually laughing. Like she had just pulled off the funniest prank in the world. The backyard had gone silent except for Tyler's cries, and a few younger children who had started crying too. Parents were gathering their kids, looking shocked and uncomfortable. I could see neighbors whispering to each other, their faces showing disgust. My husband Marcus appeared at my side instantly. He took one look at Tyler's face, and his jaw clenched. Without a word, he scooped Tyler up and carried him toward the house. I heard him say something about cold water and getting the first aid kit. I turned to Diana, and for the first time in my life, I felt pure rage toward my own sister. "What is wrong with you?" My voice came out louder than I intended, cutting through the awkward silence. "Why would you do that?" Diana's laughter died. She looked around at all the horrified faces staring at her. Her expression shifted, became defensive. "Oh my God, relax. It was just a joke. He was taking forever to make his wish." A joke. I stepped closer to her. "He has burns on his face, Diana, from the candles." "You shoved his face into lit candles." She waved her hand dismissively. "I barely touched him. He's being dramatic. He's 10 years old and you assaulted him." The words burst out of me. Several guests nodded in agreement. I saw Mrs. Patterson from next door recording something on her phone. "Good. Let there be evidence." "Assaulted? Are you serious right now?" Diana crossed her arms. "You always overreact to everything. That's your problem, Irma. You make mountains out of molehills. Get out." I pointed toward the side gate. "Leave my house right now." Before Diana could respond, I heard my father's voice. "Now hold on just a minute." Donald had been sitting at the adult table with some of our other relatives, enjoying his second beer and a plate of appetizers. He walked over slowly, his face showing more annoyance than concern. "Dad, did you see what she did?" I gestured at Diana, then toward the house where Marcus had taken Tyler. "I saw some horseplay that got a little out of hand," Donald said calmly. "You need to calm down, Irma." I stared at him, unable to believe what I was hearing. "Calm down, Tyler has second-degree burns on his face." "You don't know that," Donald said. "You're not a doctor. Diana didn't mean any harm. It was an accident." "An accident." My voice rose again. "Dad," she deliberately grabbed his head and slammed it into the cake. "There were 30 people watching. It wasn't an accident." Donald's expression hardened. "You're being too sensitive. You always have been. Diana was just being playful, and you're making everything into a drama like you always do." This was a familiar pattern. Growing up, Diana had been the golden child. She could do no wrong. When we were kids and she broke my things or got me in trouble with lies, Dad always took her side. Mom had been the one who saw through Diana's act, but Mom had been gone for almost 25 years now. "She needs to leave," I said firmly. "Both of you need to leave if you're going to defend what just happened." "She doesn't need to leave," Donald said, his voice taking on that authoritative tone he used when he wanted to shut down conversation. "She's family and she's welcome to stay." Marcus came back outside, his face grim. "Irma, we need to take Tyler to urgent care right now. These burns are bad." I felt my stomach drop. "How bad?" "Second degree. They're already blistering. He needs medical attention." I turned back to Donald and Diana. "You both need to leave my property. Now." Donald's face reddened. "This is ridiculous. I'm not going anywhere." Marcus stepped forward, positioning himself between me and my father. "Donald, Diana, I'm asking you politely to leave. My son needs medical care, and you're not welcome here right now." Something in Marcus's tone, quiet but absolutely serious, made them both move. Diana grabbed her purse from one of the patio chairs, smirking slightly as she walked past me. Donald followed, muttering under his breath about me being hysterical and dramatic. The remaining guests were already leaving, ushering their children toward the front of the house. A few stopped to express their concern and ask if Tyler would be okay. Mrs. Patterson approached me and quietly said she had video of the whole thing if I needed it. I thanked her, my eyes filling with tears. 20 minutes later, Marcus and I were sitting in the urgent care waiting room while Tyler was being examined. The party decorations were still up in our backyard. The beautiful cake, or what was left of it, was smashed on the patio. Presents sat unopened on the gift table. Tyler's dream birthday had become his nightmare, and my father had defended the person who did it. When the doctor finally called us back, her face was serious. She showed us the burns under the bright examination light. Second-degree burns on Tyler's right cheek and across his forehead where the candles had been. She cleaned and dressed them, carefully prescribed antibiotic ointment and pain medication. "How did this happen?" she asked, looking between Marcus and me. We explained. The doctor's expression tightened. She made detailed notes in Tyler's chart documenting everything. "This should be reported," she said quietly. "These injuries were inflicted by another person." The word inflicted hit me hard. My sister had inflicted injuries on my child. We drove home in silence. Tyler, medicated and exhausted, fell asleep in the back seat. Marcus reached over and squeezed my hand. Neither of us knew what to say. It was nearly 9 o'clock when we got Tyler into bed. He woke up briefly, asking if he was in trouble. I held him and promised him he had done nothing wrong, nothing at all. When he finally fell back asleep, I went to our bedroom and cried. Marcus held me and we both stared at the ceiling, trying to process what had happened. My sister had hurt my son. My father had defended her. And somehow I was being made to feel like I was the problem. I woke up the next morning to my phone buzzing constantly. Text after text, call after call. For a moment, I thought maybe it was family reaching out to check on Tyler, to apologize, to acknowledge what had happened. I was wrong. The first text I opened was from my Aunt Caroline, Donald's sister. "I can't believe how you treated Diana yesterday. You should be ashamed of yourself." My stomach turned. I scrolled through more messages. "Uncle Paul, your father told me what happened. You need to apologize to your sister." "Cousin Jennifer, drama queen. Much. It was just a birthday party. Kids are resilient." Another aunt, another uncle, another cousin. All of them telling me I had overreacted, that I had embarrassed Diana, that I was tearing the family apart over nothing. I called Marcus, who was downstairs making breakfast for Tyler. "Are you seeing these messages?" "Yeah," he said quietly. "My phone's been going off too. Some of your relatives are texting me directly." Diana had spent the entire night calling everyone in our extended family. That much was clear, but she had not told them the truth. I called my cousin Sarah, who I had always been close to. She answered on the third ring. "Sarah, what did Diana tell you about yesterday?" There was a pause. She said Tyler was acting like a spoiled brat about his cake, that you forced her to come to the party, even though she was not feeling well, and when she tried to playfully touch the cake, Tyler jerked backward into the candles himself. My mouth fell open. That is completely false. Sarah, there were 30 witnesses. Diana was crying, Sarah said. She said you screamed at her in front of everyone and humiliated her. Dad was there, and he backed up her story. He said he saw Tyler move backward. My father was lying. Actively lying to support Diana's fabricated version of events. "Sarah, I have video." A neighbor recorded it. Diana grabbed Tyler's head with both hands and shoved his face down into the cake. The candles burned him. He has second-degree burns on his face that required medical treatment. Sarah went quiet. "Can you send me the video?" I told her I would, and I immediately texted Mrs. Patterson asking for the footage. She sent it within minutes. I forwarded it to Sarah and to several other family members who had sent accusatory messages. Some responded with apologies. Others ignored it. A few said the video did not look as bad as I was making it sound, that Tyler would be fine, that kids get hurt all the time. The excuses were endless. The dismissals were crushing. Then came the text from Donald, "You need to apologize to Diana by the end of the day, or I'm cutting you off completely. Your behavior yesterday was unacceptable. You humiliated your sister in public." She's devastated. I read the text 3 times. My father was demanding I apologize to the woman who had hurt my son. I typed back, "I will never apologize. Diana assaulted Tyler. You watched it happen, and you defended her. I have nothing more to say to you." His response came immediately. "Then you've made your choice. Don't contact me again." Marcus found me crying in the kitchen. Tyler had heard me and came downstairs, his face bandaged, his eyes worried. "Mommy, why is Grandpa mad at you instead of Aunt Diana? How do you explain to a 10-year-old that some adults choose favorites, that fairness does not always exist, that your own grandfather values his other daughter more than his grandson's safety?" "Grandpa is confused right now," I managed. "But you did nothing wrong, baby. Nothing." Tyler did not look convinced. Over the next few days, he became withdrawn. He picked at his meals. He had nightmares about the party. I heard him crying in his room one night, and when I went to him, he asked if the scar on his face would ever go away. "Even if it does not," I told him, "you're still the most handsome, wonderful kid in the world." But I could see the damage went deeper than his skin. A week after the party, my younger brother Jake called me from across the country. He lived in Oregon, worked in tech, and had always been the neutral one in family conflicts. "Irma, I need to tell you something," he said, his voice tense. "I talked to Diana yesterday. I'm sure she gave you her version of events." "She did. But then I called 3 people who were at the party. I know what really happened." He paused. "Irma, Diana is planning something worse." My blood went cold. "What do you mean?" "She's been researching how to file a report with Child Protective Services. She's planning to claim that Tyler's burn happened because of your negligence, that you left lit candles unattended around children. She's going to say you're an unfit mother." I could not breathe. She would do that. "She's convinced herself that she's in the right," Jake said. "And Dad is backing her completely. He's telling her she's justified. Irma, you need to protect yourself. Get statements from witnesses. Get everything documented." I spent the rest of that day contacting everyone who had been at the party. Most agreed to provide written statements about what they had witnessed. Mrs. Patterson sent me the full video file. I compiled medical records, photographs of Tyler's injuries, the timeline of events. But the damage was spreading beyond just family relationships. At Tyler's school the following week, I noticed some of the other mothers being distant during pickup. They would smile tightly and hurry away with their children. Tyler came home one day and mentioned that his friend Caleb's mom had asked him a lot of questions about his burn and what happened at the party. "What did you tell her?" I asked carefully. "The truth. That Aunt Diana pushed my face into the cake and the candles hurt me." The whispers were spreading. In a small town like ours, gossip traveled fast. I could feel people looking at me differently at the grocery store, at the gas station. Diana's poison was seeping into every area of our lives. And I had no idea that the worst was yet to come. 2 weeks after the birthday party, someone knocked on our door at 9:30 on a Tuesday morning. I had just gotten home from taking Tyler to school. Marcus was at work. I opened the door to find a woman in business casual clothing, holding a folder and an identification badge. "Mrs. Irma Hayes?" she asked. "Yes. My name is Angela Brooks. I'm a caseworker with Child Protective Services. I need to speak with you about a report that was filed concerning your son." The world tilted. I gripped the door frame to steady myself. "What report?" "May I come in?" I let her in because I had no choice. We sat in my living room, the same room where Tyler had opened Christmas presents, where we watched movies as a family, where everything had felt safe just weeks ago. Angela opened her folder. "A report was filed alleging that your son Tyler sustained burn injuries due to unsafe conditions in your home and neglectful supervision. The report also alleges that Tyler regularly has unexplained injuries and that you have anger management issues." "That's not true. None of that is true." My voice shook. "My sister assaulted my son at his birthday party. I have witnesses, video evidence, and medical documentation." "I understand this is upsetting," Angela said calmly. "I'm required to investigate all reports. I'll need to see the evidence you mentioned, interview your son, speak with your husband, and conduct a home safety inspection." I provided everything. I showed her the video, the witness statements, the medical records from urgent care. I explained about Diana, about my father's defense of her, about Jake's warning that this was coming. Angela took notes on everything. She was professional, not unkind, but also not reassuring. "I'll need to interview Tyler separately when he gets home from school. Is that acceptable?" What choice did I have? Yes. When Tyler came home that afternoon, I had to explain that a nice woman needed to ask him some questions. Tyler looked scared. He had just started feeling safe again, and now a stranger was asking him detailed questions about his injury, about our home, about whether he felt safe with Marcus and me. It broke my heart to watch. Angela also interviewed Marcus when he rushed home from work. She inspected our home, checking smoke detectors, cabinet locks, medication storage. Everything was fine. We were good parents. Our home was safe. But the investigation would take 30 days to complete, Angela explained. During that time, the allegations would remain open. What does that mean for us? Marcus asked. It means I'll be checking in periodically. If anything changes or if I have concerns, I'll let you know. After she left, Marcus and I sat in stunned silence. This is going to affect my work, Marcus finally said. He worked for a defense contractor. Any CPS investigation had to be reported to his security officer. They'll put me on administrative leave until this is resolved. What I felt sick. You're being punished because my sister filed a false report. It's protocol. Anyone with an active CPS investigation can't hold a security clearance until it's cleared. Marcus called his security officer the next day. 2 days later, he was placed on administrative leave without pay. Our primary income disappeared overnight. I worked part-time as a dental hygienist 25 hours a week. It brought in maybe $1,500 a month after taxes. Our mortgage alone was $2,000. We had car payments, utilities, Tyler's medical bills from the burn treatment credit card debt. The math did not work. Tyler started asking questions. Why were people coming to talk to him? Why did Dad stop going to work? Did he do something wrong? We tried to shield him, but he was smart. He knew something was very wrong. The stress bled into everything. Marcus and I barely spoke. We were both terrified, both exhausted, both trying to hold it together for Tyler. But the cracks were showing. I tried calling my father one more time, hoping that surely the CPS investigation would wake him up to how far Diana had gone. Dad, Diana filed a false report with CPS. Marcus lost his job. We're going to lose our house. Please, you have to see what she's doing. If CPS is involved, there must be something to it, Donald said coldly. Maybe this is a wake-up call that you need to examine your own behavior. I hung up on him. Word of the CPS investigation spread through our town like wildfire. Small towns are like that. Everyone knows everyone's business. Some neighbors were supportive. Mrs. Patterson brought over a casserole and told me she had given a statement to CPS confirming what really happened, but others started avoiding us. Parents stopped arranging playdates with Tyler. At school, Tyler was pulled from an upcoming field trip to a professional basketball game as a precaution. Tyler cried when I told him. The game had been the one thing he was still excited about. Why does everyone hate me? He asked through his tears. No one hates you, baby. This is not your fault. But watching my son's spirit break piece by piece was destroying me. I contacted a family law attorney explaining everything. She said we could pursue assault charges against Diana and sue her for defamation over the false CPS report. But legal action would be expensive. Her retainer alone was $5,000. With Marcus not working, we did not have $5,000. We did not have $500. She agreed to work with us on a payment plan, but every conversation reminded me of the mounting debt, the impossible situation. Meanwhile, Diana was posting vague messages on social media about protecting children from toxic parents and how hard it was to watch family members make bad choices. Her friends commented with support, telling her she was brave for speaking up. Some of those friends lived in our town. I started recognizing their faces at the grocery store at church. They would look at me with judgment, with pity, with suspicion. I stopped going to church. I started grocery shopping 2 towns over where no one knew me. Tyler's burn was healing, but it was leaving a faint scar along his cheekbone. Every time I looked at it, I felt rage and helplessness in equal measure. 1 month after the birthday party, Angela from CPS came back. She had completed her investigation. She sat in our living room and told us the report was unfounded. There was no evidence of neglect or unsafe conditions. The burn injury had clearly resulted from another person's actions, not our negligence. Marcus and I nearly collapsed with relief. I'll be closing this case, Angela said. I'm sorry you had to go through this process. Marcus was reinstated at work the next day, but the damage to his reputation lingered. His security clearance review would take additional time because of the investigation. Colleagues looked at him differently. Whispers followed him in the halls. We thought the worst was over. We thought we could finally start rebuilding. We were so wrong. Marcus had been back at work for exactly 1 week when my office manager called me into her private office. I had just finished cleaning a patient's teeth, was ready to head to lunch. Sandra closed the door and gestured for me to sit. Her face was troubled. Irma, I need to talk to you about something serious. We received a complaint about you from a patient. My stomach dropped. A complaint about what? Sandra opened a file on her desk. The patient claims you were rough during their cleaning, that you seemed distracted and made inappropriate comments about personal family issues. They described you as seeming unstable. I stared at her, completely baffled. Who was the patient? I've been here 8 years and never had a single complaint. I can't share the patient's name due to privacy regulations, Sandra said. But the complaint was very detailed. It included the specific date and time of the appointment. Can you tell me what day it was? Sandra checked the file. 3 weeks ago, Tuesday afternoon, 2 o'clock appointment. I pulled out my phone and checked my calendar from that day. Sandra, I called in sick that Tuesday. I was home with Tyler. He had a follow-up appointment for his burn. I wasn't even here. Sandra's expression shifted. She turned to her computer and pulled up the schedule from that day. Her face went pale. You're right, you called in sick. But this complaint specifically mentions you by name and lists an appointment time. Someone filed a false complaint. My hand started shaking. Sandra, my sister, has been trying to destroy my life since Tyler's birthday party. This is her doing or someone she put up to it. I explained everything. The assault, the CPS report, my father's involvement, Jake's warnings. Sandra listened, her expression growing more concerned. I believe you, Irma, but I still have to report this to our practice's insurance company. It's protocol even for complaints we know are false. What does that mean? It means you'll be suspended while we investigate. It should only take a few days to confirm the appointment never happened. A few days. We were barely scraping by with both of us working. We couldn't afford for me to miss even 1 day of pay. Please, I said. I need this job. I know, Sandra said softly. I'll do everything I can to expedite this. I was suspended immediately. That night, I told Marcus what happened. He looked like he might break. We can't survive this, he said quietly. 1 more hit and we're done. 2 days later, my coworker Beth texted me. She had seen the complaint file on Sandra's desk and managed to get a look. The patient's name was someone I had never heard of. But the phone number listed had an area code from my father's region 3 states away. I showed the text to Sandra the next morning. She pulled up the patient information in their system. The patient had made 1 appointment 3 weeks ago, canceled it an hour before the scheduled time, and never rescheduled. The phone number was now disconnected. It was fake, completely fabricated. I'm so sorry, Irma, Sandra said. I'll clear this immediately. But 3 hours later, Sandra called me back into the office. She looked devastated. Our liability insurance company reviewed the situation. Even though the complaint was false, they're concerned about the CPS investigation that happened recently. They feel there's too much controversy surrounding you. They're recommending we let you go. What I could barely process it. I was cleared by CPS. The complaint is fake. I've done nothing wrong. I know. I fought for you. But the insurance company says our premiums will go up if you stay. They're threatening to drop our coverage entirely. Sandra's eyes were wet. The practice owners are terrified of losing insurance. I can't overrule them. So I'm being fired. They're offering a voluntary resignation with 2 weeks severance. If you fight it, they'll terminate you officially, which will look worse for future employment. I had no real choice. I signed the resignation paperwork numb. 2 weeks severance. $1,400. That would not even cover half a month's bills. I sat in my car in the parking lot and tried to breathe. 3 months ago, I had a job I loved, a happy son, a strong marriage, a family. Now I had nothing. That night, I applied for every dental hygienist position within 50 miles. But our town only had 1 dental practice. The nearest others were 45 minutes away. And when I interviewed, they called Sandra for a reference. Sandra tried to be fair. She confirmed I was a good hygienist, that I had worked there 8 years. But she had to mention the complaint and the voluntary resignation. The words sounded damning, even though the situation was fake. I didn't get callbacks. I expanded my search. Retail, food service, anything. I took a job at a big box store for $12 an hour night shift stocking shelves. It was humiliating and exhausting. I left for work as Tyler went to bed. I came home as he woke up for school. I barely saw my son. Tyler noticed. He stopped smiling. He stopped talking about school. He just existed, moving through his days like a ghost. Marcus tried to hold everything together, but I could see him crumbling too. We didn't talk anymore. We moved around each other like strangers, both too exhausted and defeated to connect. 3 months after the birthday party, our life was unrecognizable. We were behind on the mortgage. Late fees were piling up. Creditors called constantly. We used credit cards for groceries and fell deeper into debt. Then Marcus's car broke down. Transmission failure. The repair estimate was $3,000. We didn't have $3,000. We didn't have $300. Marcus needed the car for his hour-long commute. Without it, he couldn't work. We looked into title loans, but the interest rates were predatory. We would never be able to pay it back. The stress between us became unbearable. We snapped at each other over small things. We avoided being in the same room. The silence in our house was suffocating. Tyler's teacher called to say he was falling behind in schoolwork. He seemed distracted and sad. Did we know if something was going on at home? Everything was going on at home. Everything was falling apart. I broke down one night after Tyler went to bed. I sat on the bathroom floor and sobbed until I couldn't breathe. Marcus found me there and held me, but I could feel he was at his own breaking point too. Diana had won. She had systematically destroyed every aspect of our lives. My reputation, my job, my income, our financial stability, my mental health, my marriage. And she was untouched, living her life, posting happy photos online like nothing had happened. The next day, my office called. They had found someone to take my shifts indefinitely. The way the manager said it, I knew I was being let go entirely. Too slow, too distracted, they needed someone more reliable. I had lost even the minimum wage job. That night, I applied for a position at a fast food restaurant, and a gas station, and a cleaning service, anywhere that would hire me. Marcus suggested I call my father and ask for temporary help. He was wealthy. He could easily loan us enough to catch up on bills. I refused. I would not give Donald that power. I would not beg him for money after everything he had done. But as I looked at our bank statement showing $18 as I opened the foreclosure warning letter from our mortgage company, I realized we were out of options. We were drowning. And Diana was still attacking. 3.5 months after the birthday party, I came home from a 10-hour shift at the gas station where I had finally found work. It was 6 in the morning. I was exhausted, filthy, and completely depleted. Marcus's car was in the driveway. That was strange. He should have left for work an hour ago. I walked inside to find him in our bedroom packing a duffel bag with clothes. "What are you doing?" My voice came out flat. Marcus didn't look at me. He just kept folding shirts, placing them carefully in the bag. "I can't do this anymore." The words hung in the air. I understood them immediately, but my brain refused to process them. Can't do what? This, us, everything. He finally looked at me and his eyes were empty. "I love you, Irma. I do, but we're drowning. We've been drowning for months and I can't breathe anymore." "So you're leaving?" My voice cracked. "You're just giving up." "I'm going to stay with my brother for a while. Just to clear my head, to think." "Think about what?" "About whether you want to be married anymore." "I don't know." He zipped the bag. "I don't know anything anymore except that Diana won. She set out to destroy our lives and she did it. And I don't know how to live like this." "So you're letting her win more by leaving me?" "I'm not leaving you. I'm taking space. There's a difference." But it didn't feel different. It felt like abandonment. "What about Tyler?" I asked. "I'll still pay my share of bills. I'll see him on weekends. But I need to not be in this house right now." I heard a sound and turned. Tyler stood in the hallway, still in his pajamas, his eyes wide with fear. He had heard everything. Dad Tyler's voice was small. "You're leaving." Marcus's face crumpled. He went to Tyler, knelt down. "Just for a little while, buddy. Dad needs some time to think." "Is it because of me?" Tyler asked. "Because of my birthday?" "No, no, no." Marcus pulled him into a hug. "None of this is your fault. You did nothing wrong." But Tyler was crying and I was crying, and Marcus grabbed his bag and left. Just like that. 17 years together, a child together, a life together. And he walked out. Tyler and I stood in the hallway, holding each other, both of us falling apart. The next 2 weeks were a blur. I functioned on autopilot. Work, home, sleep, repeat. Tyler stopped talking almost entirely. He went to school, came home, did homework, went to bed. He was like a shell of himself. I tried to reach Marcus. He answered occasionally, said he needed more time. His brother's place was giving him space to think. He still loved us. He just didn't know if he could do this anymore. I understood. I barely knew if I could do this anymore either. Then the certified letter arrived. It was from a law office I didn't recognize. Inside was a formal demand letter on behalf of my father, Donald Hayes. The letter stated that 5 years ago, Donald had provided us with $15,000 toward the down payment on our house. At the time, he had called it a gift for Tyler's future. The letter now claimed it had been a loan, not a gift, and Donald was demanding full repayment plus 6% annual interest. Total amount owed $19,400. Due within 30 days, or legal action would be pursued. I read it 3 times. Each time the words made less sense. There had never been any loan paperwork. No promissory note. No repayment terms discussed. Donald had given us a check and said, "For my grandson's future, so he grows up in a good home." It was a gift. It had always been a gift. I called the attorney listed on the letter. He was cold and professional. Donald was his client. Donald claimed it had been a loan. Without documentation proving otherwise, it would be Donald's word against mine. But there's no documentation proving it was a loan either, I argued. Mr. Hayes has provided a written affidavit stating his intent at the time the money was given. He has banking records showing the transfer. Unless you can prove it was explicitly stated as a gift, the court will likely side with the person who provided the funds. We couldn't pay $19,000. We couldn't pay $1,900. We were using credit cards to buy food. This was Donald's final weapon. Destroy me financially so completely that I'd never recover. I tried calling him. He didn't answer. I left a voicemail, my voice breaking. "Dad, it's me. Please. I know you're angry, but this is going too far. We can't pay this. You'll force us into bankruptcy. You'll force Tyler out of his home. Is that what you want, to hurt your own grandson to punish me?" He never called back. Instead, I received a text. "You brought this on yourself. Pay what you owe or face the consequences." I called my lawyer, the one handling the potential lawsuit against Diana. She said fighting Donald's claim would cost more in legal fees than just trying to settle. "Can we negotiate a payment plan?" I asked desperately. "With someone this vindictive, unlikely. He wants to bury you." That night I sat in my kitchen with the letter in front of me. Mortgage foreclosure notice, medical bills, credit card statements showing balances we'd never pay off, and now this. I had lost my sister, my father, my extended family, my job, my income, my reputation, my marriage. I was failing Tyler, who was traumatized and withdrawn. The house we had worked so hard to buy was being taken from us. Diana's calculated destruction had been total and complete. She had poisoned everything, turned everyone against me, cost me everything that mattered. And I was out of fight. I stopped answering calls. I stopped checking emails. I stayed in bed for 2 days straight, barely moving. Tyler tried to take care of himself, making cereal for meals, getting himself to school. Marcus called, but I didn't answer. What was there to say that I was giving up? That Diana had won completely? On the 3rd day, Marcus showed up. He let himself in with his key and found me still in bed. Tyler was at school. Marcus looked at the pile of unopened mail, the empty refrigerator, the state of the house. "Irma, I'm taking you to the hospital." "I'm fine." "You're not fine." Tyler called me scared. He said you won't get up, won't eat, won't talk. I had terrified my own son. That realization cut through the fog slightly. Marcus drove me to the emergency room. A doctor evaluated me, diagnosed severe depression and acute stress reaction. They prescribed medication, recommended immediate counseling, wanted to keep me overnight for observation. Marcus took Tyler to stay with him at his brother's place while I was in the hospital. That was what finally truly broke me. My son was gone. Taken away because I couldn't function anymore. In the quiet hospital room that night, I stared at the ceiling and saw my situation clearly. Diana would never stop. Donald would never acknowledge the truth. The legal system had not helped. The truth didn't matter. Playing fair had gotten me nowhere. I had tried to do everything right, and I had lost everything. A dark thought entered my mind. What if I fought back the way Diana fought? What if I destroyed her the way she had destroyed me? I started planning. Not legal revenge, something else. Something that would truly hurt her. I thought about exposing her publicly in ways that would ruin her reputation the way mine was ruined. I thought about confronting her physically. I thought about finding vulnerabilities in Donald's business and exploiting them. These thoughts were unlike me, but I had been pushed past my limits. After 3 days, I was discharged with medication and follow-up counseling appointments. I went home to an empty house. Tyler's room was empty. Marcus's things were gone. I was truly alone. The darkness continued. I drove past Diana's house at night, watching her lights on, seeing her shadow move past windows. She was living her perfect life while mine was ashes. I sat in my car outside her house for hours, just watching, thinking about ways to hurt her back. One night I had spray paint in my car. I was going to vandalize her house, destroy her car, something to make her feel a fraction of what I felt. I sat outside her house at midnight, working up the courage. My hand was on the door handle. Then my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize at first, then I realized it was my grandmother, Betty. She lived 2 states away in Florida, and I hadn't spoken to her since before Tyler's birthday. "Grandma." I answered, my voice hoarse. "Irma, honey, I heard about everything from Jake. All of it. I'm so sorry I didn't call sooner." Her voice was strong, clear, full of fury and love. "Now you listen to me. Don't you do anything stupid. Do you hear me?" "I don't know what you mean." "Yes, you do. I know where you are and what you're thinking. I can hear it in your voice. Don't you dare." I started crying. "I can't take it anymore, Grandma. She destroyed everything." "I know she did, honey. And that's why I'm coming to fix it." "What?" "I'm 84 years old and I've had enough of this nonsense. Your mother, my daughter, she would have handled this months ago. But she's not here, so I'm stepping in. I'm driving up tomorrow and I'm bringing reinforcements." "Grandma, what are you talking about?" "You just go home right now. Go home, take your medication, and wait for me. Some battles need an old woman's touch." Something in her voice, something fierce and certain, made me listen. I drove home. I went inside. I took my medication. I slept for the first time in days. The next afternoon I heard a car in the driveway. I looked out to see my grandmother's old Buick. Betty emerged dressed in her Sunday best, moving surprisingly well for 84. And she was carrying something. A Louisville Slugger baseball bat. I opened the door, confused. "Grandma." She walked up to me and pulled me into a long, tight hug. Let me cry on her shoulder. When I finally pulled back, she looked at me with steel in her eyes. "Your mother would have handled this. But since she can't, I will." She patted the baseball bat. "We're going to have a conversation with your father and sister. Grandma, you can't just show up at Dad's house with a bat. Watch me. Now call your father and make sure both he and Diana are there." "This is crazy." "What's crazy is what they've done to you and my great-grandson. What's crazy is that I've sat quietly for 3 months while they destroyed your life. That stops today." She looked at me. "Are they home?" I called Donald's number from the kitchen phone. He answered after 4 rings. "What do you want, Irma?" "Is Diana there with you?" "Why?" "Just answer the question." "Yes, she's staying here." "Why?" I hung up and looked at my grandmother. They're both there. Betty smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of a woman who had finally had enough. "Good. Let's go teach them about consequences." I tried to talk Betty out of it during the drive to Donald's house. I explained that showing up with a baseball bat could get her arrested, could make things worse, could give them ammunition to claim I was unstable. Betty just patted my hand and kept driving. "Honey, I'm 84 years old. What are they going to do? Arrest me? Put me in jail? I'd love to stand before a judge and explain exactly what Diana and Donald did to my great-grandson." She glanced at me. "Besides, the bat is just for show. I'm not going to hit anyone." "Then what's the plan?" "To scare them. To make them understand they picked on the wrong family." She pulled into Donald's neighborhood, his large suburban house coming into view. "Your mother was my daughter. Tyler is my great-grandson. Nobody hurts my family and walks away unscathed. She parked right in the driveway, bold as anything, grabbed her bat, walked straight to the front door with me, trailing behind, terrified and confused and desperately hopeful all at once. Betty rang the doorbell. Donald opened the door, his face shifting from surprise to shock, when he saw his ex-mother-in-law standing there with a baseball bat. "Betty, what are you doing here?" "We need to talk, Donald. Right now." Before he could respond, she pushed past him into the house. I followed, my heart hammering. Donald sputtered behind us. Diana emerged from the living room, probably wondering what the commotion was. When she saw Betty holding the bat, her face went pale. "Sit down," Betty commanded, pointing at the couch. "Both of you. Now." Something in her voice, maybe the authority of an 84-year-old woman who had lived through wars and losses and was completely done with nonsense, made them obey. They Saturday. Betty stood before them, bat resting on her shoulder, and the look on her face was terrifying in its calm fury. "I'm going to tell you a story," she began, "about a 10-year-old boy who was excited for his birthday party, who had a special cake made just for him, who was surrounded by friends and family who loved him." Her voice hardened, and then his aunt grabbed his head and slammed his face into lit candles, deliberately, violently, in front of 30 witnesses. Diana opened her mouth. Betty raised one finger. "You don't speak. You sit there and listen." Diana closed her mouth. Betty continued. "That boy, my great-grandson, ended up with second-degree burns on his face. He'll carry a scar for the rest of his life. He had nightmares for weeks. He developed anxiety. He needed therapy." She looked directly at Diana. "You did that. You hurt a child. And not just any child. Your nephew." "It was an accident," Diana whispered. "No, it wasn't. I have video evidence. I have 30 witness statements. I have medical records documenting assault-related injuries." Betty reached into her purse with her free hand and pulled out a thick folder. "I also have this." She dropped the folder on the coffee table. Papers spilled out. Legal documents, witness statements, medical records, everything. "I hired an attorney, a very good one, and we've been very busy this past week." Betty's smile was sharp. "We can pursue criminal assault charges against you, Diana. Assault on a minor. That's a felony in this state. You could go to prison." Diana's face drained of all color. "We can also sue you for the injuries, the medical bills, the therapy costs, the emotional distress, and we will win. The evidence is overwhelming." Betty turned to Donald. "And you, Donald, you enabled this. You defended her. You allowed her to file false reports with CPS. You demanded repayment of money that was clearly a gift just to financially destroy your own daughter." "Now, wait just a minute," Donald started. "I'm not done." Betty's voice cut through his objection like a knife. "I also brought information about you, Donald. I know about the business dealings you've been involved in, the ones that are ethically questionable even if they're technically legal. I know about your affairs when you were married to my daughter. I know exactly why she was so unhappy before she died." Donald's face reddened. "You wouldn't dare. Try me. I'm an old woman with nothing to lose and a family to protect. I will burn your reputation to the ground if I have to." She leaned forward slightly. "I'll tell everyone in your business circle. Everyone at your country club, everyone at your church. I'll make sure they all know exactly what kind of man you are." The room was dead silent. "Here's what's going to happen." Betty said, her voice steady and clear. "Diana is going to sign a notarized confession admitting she deliberately hurt Tyler. She's going to pay for all of his medical expenses and therapy. That's currently $10,200. She's also going to post a public apology on social media admitting she lied about Irma." Diana started crying. Betty ignored her. "Donald, you're going to repay Irma and Marcus $40,000. That's the $15,000 you're falsely claiming was a loan plus $25,000 for the damage you've caused. Lost wages, legal fees, therapy, costs everything. You're also going to write a letter to Irma's former employer explaining Diana's scheme to get her fired." "This is extortion," Donald said. "No, this is accountability. Extortion would be if I was making you do something illegal. I'm just making you face consequences for your actions." Betty pulled out more papers. "Both of you will sign restraining order agreements. No contact with Irma, Marcus, or Tyler. None. If you violate it, we file criminal charges and lawsuits immediately. And if we refuse, Donald asked. Then tomorrow morning my attorney files everything. Criminal charges against Diana for assault on a minor. A civil lawsuit against both of you for damages. And I start making phone calls to everyone you know, Donald. Your business partners, your golf buddies, your neighbors. I'll tell them everything. Betty straightened up. I brought a notary with me. He's waiting in the car. You sign these agreements right now tonight, or we do this the hard way. Diana was sobbing. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I just wanted to teach Irma a lesson. She always got all the attention when we were growing up. Mom loved her more. You loved her more, Dad. I just wanted her to feel what it was like to lose everything. The confession spilled out of her. Years of jealousy, resentment that Irma had been closer to their mother before she died. Envy of Irma's marriage, her son, her seemingly perfect life. The birthday party incident had started as a mean-spirited prank, but when Donald had backed her up, Diana had felt justified to keep going, to punish Irma for being the favorite child. But Tyler got hurt worse than I meant, Diana continued. And then everything spiraled. I couldn't stop. I thought if I just kept going, eventually everyone would see that Irma wasn't perfect. So, you filed false reports? Betty asked coldly. You cost her her job, you cost her her marriage, you tried to take her home. Diana just cried. Donald sat silently, his face unreadable. Finally he spoke. I chose the wrong daughter to defend. Yes, you did, Betty agreed. So now you're going to make it right. She went to the door and called for Jake, who had been the notary waiting in the car. He came in with more paperwork. Over the next hour, both Diana and Donald signed everything. The confession, the financial agreements, the restraining orders. It was all documented, notarized, legal. When it was done, Betty looked at me. Do you have anything you want to say to them? I looked at my father and my sister. Diana was still crying. Donald looked like he had aged 10 years in the past hour. You destroyed my life because you were jealous, I said to Diana. You hurt my son. You cost me everything. And for what? Because you thought Mom loved me more. My voice broke. She loved both of us. But she would be ashamed of what you've become. I turned to Donald. And you. You chose Diana over your grandson. You chose your golden child over the truth. You enabled her to hurt a 10-year-old boy and then tried to destroy his mother when she tried to protect him. I felt tears on my face. I hope you can live with that. Because I'm done. You're not my father anymore. You're not my family. You're strangers who share my blood, and that's all you'll ever be. Marcus arrived then. Betty had called him to come. He had been outside waiting, making sure everything was okay. When he walked in and saw the signed agreements, saw Diana's confession, saw the check Donald had written for $40,000, his eyes filled with tears. It's over, he asked quietly. It's over, Betty confirmed. Marcus looked at me. Really looked at me for the first time in months. I saw something shift in his face. Recognition, remembrance, love. I'm sorry I left, he said. I should have stayed. I should have fought with you instead of running away. You came back, I said. That's what matters. We left Donald's house together. Betty drove her car. Marcus and I followed in his. We didn't go home. We went straight to Marcus's brother's place to get Tyler. When Tyler saw me, he ran into my arms and held on tight. Mommy, you're okay. I'm okay, baby. Everything's going to be okay now. That night, the three of us slept in Marcus's brother's guest room. Together. As a family. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. The check from Donald cleared the next day. $40,000. We paid off the mortgage arrears, immediately bringing our account current. We paid the medical bills. We paid the lawyer fees. We put the rest into savings for the first time in months. With Donald's letter, I contacted my former dental practice. Sandra called me personally apologetic and relieved. The owners wanted me back. They offered me my old position full-time with back pay for the weeks I had been gone. They even gave me a raise as an apology. I accepted. Diana's public confession went viral in our local community. She posted exactly what Betty had required. A full admission that she had deliberately hurt Tyler, that she had filed false reports about me, that she had lied to turn family and friends against me, that she had schemed to get me fired from my job. The post exploded. Hundreds of comments, most condemning her actions. People who had shunned me now sent messages apologizing. Neighbors who had avoided us showed up with apologies and casseroles. Parents who had kept their kids away from Tyler called to arrange playdates. The truth was finally, publicly, undeniably out there. Tyler's teacher called to say other students wanted to welcome him back into activities. The school reinstated him for the basketball game field trip. When I told him, he smiled. Actually, smiled. It was the first real smile I had seen from him in 4 months. At work, my coworkers welcomed me back with genuine warmth. Patients who had heard the gossip now understood the truth. My reputation began to rebuild piece by piece. Marcus and I started couples therapy. We had a long road ahead to repair the damage the stress had caused our marriage, but we were both committed. We talked honestly about how close we had come to losing everything, including each other. We made promises to communicate better, to be a team, no matter what, to never let anyone drive a wedge between us again. Slowly, our life began to resemble something normal again. Tyler continued therapy too. His therapist said he was processing the trauma in healthy ways, that he was resilient, that he would be okay. The scar on his face faded more over time, becoming barely noticeable. But Tyler said he didn't mind it anymore. He said it reminded him that he survived something hard. 6 months after Betty's intervention, we gathered at our house for a small party. Tyler's 11th birthday. This time there were only 10 people. Marcus and me, Betty, Jake, who flew in from Oregon, Mrs. Patterson from next door, and a few of Tyler's closest friends from school. No elaborate cake. Just a simple sheet cake from the grocery store with basketball decorations. 11 candles. Tyler made his wish and blew them out himself safely, happily. "What did you wish for?" one of his friends asked. Tyler smiled. "I can't tell you, or it won't come true. But I think it already did." After the kids went outside to play basketball in the driveway, I sat with Betty on the back porch. "Thank you," I said, for probably the 100th time. "I don't know how to ever repay you." "You don't repay family, honey. You just love them and protect them." She sipped her lemonade. "Your mother would have done the same thing if she was still here. She would have marched over to Donald's house years ago and set him straight. Do you think she would be proud of me?" Betty looked at me seriously. "She would be proud that you protected your son. That you stood up for the truth even when everyone was against you. That you didn't give up even when you wanted to." She patted my hand. "But she would also want you to remember something important." "What's that?" "That your worth was never determined by your father's approval or your sister's jealousy. You are valuable because of who you are. A good mother, a good wife, a good person. Nobody can take that from you unless you let them." I felt tears in my eyes again, but good tears this time. Healing tears. Marcus came outside and sat beside me. We watched Tyler playing with his friends, laughing and happy. Watched the sun setting over our backyard, the same backyard where the nightmare had started months ago. But tonight it was just our backyard again. Our home. Our life. "I learned something through all of this," I said quietly. What Marcus asked. That sometimes the system fails. Sometimes playing fair doesn't work. Sometimes doing the right thing doesn't protect you. I looked at Betty. But having people who truly love you, who will fight for you when you can't fight for yourself, that makes all the difference. Betty smiled. "That's exactly right." Over the following months, I heard through Jake that Donald and Diana's relationship had fractured. Diana moved out of his house, moved to another state, cut off contact with everyone. Donald apparently tried to reach out to me a few times through intermediaries, but I never responded. I had meant what I said. They were strangers to me now. I didn't feel angry anymore. I didn't feel victorious either. I just felt free. Free from the burden of trying to earn my father's love. Free from the competition with Diana that I had never wanted to be part of. Free from the false family bonds that had caused so much pain. Instead, I focused on the family I had chosen and built. Marcus, who learned to stay and fight. Tyler, who learned resilience and strength. Betty, who showed me that love sometimes looks like fierce protection. Jake, who stayed loyal even from across the country. Tyler started middle school that fall, entering 6th grade. He made the basketball team. He made new friends. He smiled easily again. Sometimes I would catch him looking in the mirror at the faint scar on his cheek, and instead of sadness, I saw him touch it with something like pride. "It's my survivor mark," he told me once. Like I went through battle and came out okay. 1 year after the birthday party incident, I received an unexpected letter. It was from Diana. No return address postmarked from somewhere in Arizona. I almost threw it away without reading it. But curiosity won. Inside was a single page handwritten. Irma, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't deserve forgiveness. I destroyed your life because I was jealous of something you didn't even have a fantasy version of you I had created in my head. I convinced myself you were the golden child, the favorite, the perfect one. But the truth was, I was just bitter and small. What I did to Tyler is unforgivable. What I did to you is unforgivable. I'm in therapy now, working on myself, trying to understand why I became someone so cruel. This isn't me asking for another chance. It's me acknowledging the harm I caused and taking responsibility for it. I hope Tyler is okay. I hope you're okay. I'm sorry. Diana. I read it twice, then put it in a drawer. Maybe someday I would feel something about it. Maybe someday I would respond. But not today. Today I had a life to live, a son to raise, a marriage to nurture, a job I enjoyed, friends who cared, a grandmother who would probably live to be 100 out of sheer stubbornness and love. I had learned that protecting your child and standing up for truth matters more than keeping false peace. I had learned that fairness doesn't always exist, but justice sometimes finds a way. I had learned that the family you're born into isn't always the family that matters most. And I had learned that even when you're knocked down repeatedly, even when you lose almost everything, you can still get back up. You can still rebuild. You can still find happiness on the other side of trauma. 2 years later, Marcus and I sat in the stands, watching Tyler play in a middle school basketball championship game. He was taller now, more confident, his face showing the early signs of the young man he would become. When he made the winning shot, the crowd erupted. Tyler looked up into the stands, found us, and grinned. Betty, sitting next to me at age 86, and still sharp as ever, squeezed my hand. Your mother would have loved to see this. I wish she was here, I said. She is, honey. She's in you. In how you protected your boy. In how you fought back when someone tried to destroy your family. In how you built something better from the ashes. Betty smiled. That's her legacy living on. As we left the gym that night, Tyler walking between Marcus and me with his participation trophy, I thought about everything we had survived. The betrayal, the attacks, the financial devastation, the near collapse of our marriage, the trauma Tyler had endured. But we had survived it. More than survived, we had healed. Because in the end, love was stronger than jealousy, truth was more powerful than lies, and family, the real kind, built on loyalty and protection and sacrifice, that lasted when blood ties failed. I looked at my son happy and whole, and at my husband committed and present, and at my grandmother fierce and loving. This was my family. This was what mattered. And no one would ever take it from us again. So, let me ask you something. Have you ever had to cut toxic family members out of your life to protect yourself or your children? How did you find the strength to do it? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this story touched your heart or reminded you of your own struggles, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about resilience, justice, and the power of chosen family. Share this with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to walk away from people who hurt you, even if they're family. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope it brought you some comfort or strength, or maybe just reminded you that you're not alone in your battles. May you always have the courage to protect those you love and the wisdom to know who truly deserves a place in your life. Take care, and I will see you in the next story.